Hello, everybody, and welcome to State of Honor Patch Analysis, this time for the title update 1.05 on April 6th. My name is Klyka, and I have with me the wonderful Pete Moo.
Hello.
And, of course, top-heavy Warden Extheleon. Hey, X.
Only top heavy.
Only top heavy. Now, let's hope it's still only top heavy after this patch, which just got dropped today on April 6th. And we're just going to basically go through the patch notes. And these two, who you probably know from some of the best tournament games that you can see in For Honor at the moment, are going to give their opinions on it. And maybe I'll give an uninformed opinion here or there, but be honest, you're mostly here for these two. All right, let's go right in. So, release notes for patch 1.05. Now, we've got superior block feedback, which I think is just visual feedback on the Warden's top light, the Kensei's dodge forward, left, and right superior block. Now, these are just visual effects. I take it this doesn't really change anything for anyone, does
No,
it?
it's not. It's not a gameplay
Yeah.
change.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice thing to have a visual, like a better visual representation of things, but obviously it doesn't really change anything. The Valkyrie moveset, they removed the guard break cancel from shield tackle cancel moveset description. Again, no real gameplay changer there. The actual gameplay change already happened. This is just the description in the moveset list being changed. They updated the guard break tutorial for some more clarity, always nice to have. A bug fix guard break. The counter guard break ability is no longer affected by the debuff gear stat. Now, obviously, gear stat's not really any part in the competitive gameplay, but I think we can all three agree that this is a really good change what they did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this means that the guard break, like the debuff gear stat beforehand, actually allowed you to tech out of normally untackable or uncounterable guard breaks. This is not possible anymore.
Yeah, a lot of people before in like Dominions or Elimination, they would put the debuff on max and they would throw heavies out or lights out and they would get parried and they'd go for a guard break and you'd still be able to tech the guard break due to this stat, and they've changed that now.
Yeah, so obviously, we don't want any of that. Now, let's go further. There is one bug, and this is something that was fixed, which I think the two of you are basically saying like, hallelujah, finally.
Oh,
Assassins not falling after unbalance when thrown out of stamina is resolved. Now, in layman's terms, what happened was if an assassin character, Peacekeeper, Orochi, or what's that other assassin?
Berserker.
I always remember. The Berserker. Oh, right, he exists. So yeah, Orochi, Peacekeeper, and Berserker. If one of them was out of stamina and you grabbed them with a guard break and you wanted to throw them down, they basically just kind of had to spam their guard directions left and right, and they wouldn't fall down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was fixed. So now they will always fall down when you throw them out of stamina. I guess huge thing for competitive gaming.
Oh yeah, really good issue. Really good bug fix.
Yeah, so that's gonna, especially with Peacekeepers, who we see a lot in tournaments at the moment, that is a big blow to what they were playing as. Now, Revenge activation is no longer interruptible by emotes. I didn't even know that was possible. Let's just go with, okay, another bug fixed. They fixed some Kensei emotes. Again, also nothing for competitive gaming there, but nice to have bug fixes. The fighters. Hidden stance input improvement. I guess a nice thing. A lot of people had problems getting their Nobushi's hidden stance going because apparently the input like window that you had on your right stick on the controller, for example, was very hard to do. They fixed it. It's now proper. Nice thing for all the Nobushi players out there.
Yeah, and I think there was mostly console specific issue.
I mean, I think it was also with controllers on the PC, but yeah, I mean, it was obviously a controller issue if you were playing with, say, the keyboard. If you pressed the button for it, it just came out.
Yeah.
The Nobushi's bleed can no longer be applied without hitting the target. So this is a bug where the Nobushi could actually cause a bleed that she just applied to be reapplied without actually hitting the target if she was using a specific timing of just throwing out that attack into the air. I guess, that is a bug fix. We don't see the Nobushi in competitive gaming really, but it's definitely nice to have, a bug that can literally kill people without touching them to have fixed.
Yeah, that was the only ability Nobushi could actually zone people out of, not being on the other side of the map spamming bleeds.
Yeah, which, I mean, it sounds hilarious and it looks hilarious, but if you're on the receiving end of that,
Oh
I
yeah.
guess a couple of controllers will have died to that rage. All right, the Lawbringer. Using shove on an enemy about to fall used to change their fall reaction. The enemy would land on their feet instead of falling on their back. This was fixed, meaning that the Lawbringer now shoving, I guess, especially in group fights and so on, it's more consistent. You don't fuck it up, your enemy will fall down. Very nice to have. Makes the Lawbringer a little bit more viable. Blocking external attacks while in full block stance now costs stamina. This is for the Warlord.
Yeah.
Now, Pete, that's probably it's probably pretty big, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, I think like all block is always useful when you're fighting 3 or 4 people, I'd say. You don't really need it against 2 people. But now you can't really turtle up for too long. You actually have to block the directions.
Yeah.
It's a minor nerf, but it affects some scenarios though.
And I guess it makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, before, like you always use stamina and you didn't before. It's a bug fix, plain and simple. All right, now the Berserker got some heavy finisher hit areas updated, which is the so-called phantom hit issue. As far as I'm aware, this is actually a bit of a nerf to the Berserker almost.
Oh yeah, it's
And
yeah. Sorry, it's when the Berserker got a guard break on a character when they were out of stamina, you could throw them on the ground and get a side heavy and a top heavy. But now you actually cannot do that.
that's actually pretty crazy. All right, so that is not possible anymore. Kind of like, I mean, it is a bug fix when you think about it, but yeah, it means the Berserker just lost one of his really heavy damage combos, and we all know the Berserker is already leading a hard life, and it just got a little bit harder for the Berserker players out there. All right, we've got some feats about health regeneration, which only works from idle, and health regeneration is set to 12 HP. Obviously, since we currently don't actually have competitive modes being played with feats enabled, this doesn't really change anything now. But I mean, once we actually go into those modes, it is nice to have some balance there.
Oh yeah, and
Yep.
especially the health regen with how warlords, because warlord has quite a few feats that they take less damage, they get more HP, and then they could take the regen as their last feat. You could be practically unkillable by just doing the unlock stuff with warlord with clear
Yeah.
stats. It was pretty ridiculous.
Like you would literally just be regenerating health the whole time, and
Yeah.
the warlord was just sitting there and kind of laughing at you. All right. Well, we're going to very quickly just go over those game mode changes. So elimination boosts now appear 20 seconds after the round starts, and the time for picking up a boost has been increased from 1 to 2. Again, elimination currently not being played in competitive mode, but I mean, could be in competitive mode in the future. And I think this is definitely a positive change because elimination always started with people, instead of fighting each other, turning around and running for the nearest boost.
Oh yeah, and even if you were right behind them, you just couldn't catch them before they got the buff.
Yeah. So now it's 2 seconds to actually pick it up, and you have to actually wait 20 seconds. I think this might be interesting if we do get competitive elimination, because I feel it'll actually mean that teams are going to try to secure the positions where specific buffs will spawn early, and we'll see fighting around those areas.
That'll be interesting. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good point.
Definitely something there. Then let's just very quickly skirmish. It's not really a mode that I see ever really being played as competitive. They just did some point changes. They basically increased all kinds of points which you can gain in the mode to basically make the mode end faster. Because right now skirmish is the mode that takes by far the longest to end, and they just changed all kinds of rewards and bonus points and so on to just make it end a little bit faster to get to the 1,000 points you need to break the enemy's morale. Um, they added a single hero pick option to custom matches. Again, nice little option to have. Could be useful for tourneys who want to have custom match with single pick. They don't need to enforce it. No one needs to look out for it because you can just enable the option.
Yeah, it's a quality of life change.
Yeah, it's quite nice. All right, we're going into gear stats again. Not really part of the competitive, but let's quickly look over it. So we got attack and defense stats no longer applying when in revenge mode. Only the revenge attack and revenge defense stats apply when in revenge. Now that's a big one.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you go into any 4 versus 4 match at the moment, when someone pops their revenge, their attack and defense is just insane, especially when you have, 108 gear score. And I think this is really going to help because it means that while you can stack attack and defense and revenge attack and revenge defense with each other, you can't do it like, in the actual revenge mode. So meaning that some people might actually be not anywhere near as strong in revenge as they were before.
Oh yeah. For example, before you could take Warlord, for example, down to 1 bar. He would pop Revenge and just kill you in 2 hits from a headbutt.
That's pretty crazy. That is pretty crazy. All right, so the debuff resistance will no longer reduce the guard break counter window of opportunity. We already talked about that real quick, so it means you can't stack debuff resistance to get basically tackable guard breaks that were untackable.
Yeah.
Revenge gain by defense is now only applied when you block or parry a hit. That's pretty important because beforehand, it was actually so that, like, I need to add to this, revenge gain by injury is now also only applied when you get revenge from actually taking damage. Beforehand, it was actually kind of bugged where if you would block or parry, you would actually also gain revenge from injury, meaning that if you stacked revenge gain by defense and revenge gain by injury, you would basically, by a single block, gain from 2 different kinds of stats. And that made revenge pop so quickly,
Oh
which
yeah.
is crazy.
That really explains like why some people got revenge in 1v1s really quickly.
Yeah. And even after not even taking damage, really. All right. In general, the revenge mode has been rebalanced quite a bit. We're not going to go into every single one of the numbers here, but yeah, like the defense of revenge mode, defense of revenge gain has all of that has been lowered in percentages. Revenge mode attack and duration has been lowered by half in many points. Sprint speed has actually also been lowered by half, so no more Sonic the Hedgehog Orochis, only like I guess Knuckles the Echidna Orochis. All right. A nice little thing for everybody who likes to earn steel for customizations is that the orders have actually been changed. All daily orders and contract orders can now actually be done in PvP and in PvE without any distinction. And they also added new daily orders that can be done regardless of the game mode that you play. Now, that I think is really nice, actually.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, especially since we already, had an increase in steel gain in general, and now it's actually easier to get the orders. You can really decide how you want to earn your steel now, and so you can buy those cool executions.
This alone really does fix the issue with, gear stats in games. Like, how people were just too scared to go into a real match when they were
Yeah,
below rep 3. Now they can just farm PvE with all the orders and get to rep 3 really quick.
yeah. So that is really, really nice. It's for all those people out there who were like, why am I forced to play PvP when, maybe my gear isn't up to snuff or I'm just not feeling it like it right now. And now I can just do it. So I think that's a super positive change for the community in general, like whether you're competitive or not. Everybody likes to get some steel and, like buy a new execution or whatever. And I think that's really positive.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right, so just some small various changes. Team icons disappear from the chat window once the chat has timed out. Nice little fix. Players will no longer be paired on the same team when playing in 1v1 duel after reinviting. Pretty nice. Then we have a very big kind of like list of, in this case, PC specific, because this is the PC patch at this moment. Just bug fixes. We are not going to go through those
Nah,
It's just little stuff,
yeah.
like it fixes some like game freezes when you try to quit to the world map, just stuff like that.
Yeah,
Error
small little things. So
messages.
scrolling in the UI,
Yeah.
some broken icons, the mouse wheel accidentally scrolling through parameters not working, stuff like that. All right, another one little thing that I will pick up on though, it's now that when you're in dual game mode, where it's only you and your opponent, all chat is now actually the default chat.
oh yeah,
I
that
always
is smart.
thought that was incredibly silly because there's only your enemy that you can talk to, and you had to start chat and then change it from team chat into all chat to actually talk, and now it's
And there was,
immediately all
yeah,
chat.
That was really good. And that fucking T button, when you press T and
Yes.
you have to delete the goddamn T, it's annoying. Never
It was
get rid of it.
very annoying. So, like, some people might be like, "This is such a small fix. Why do you care about it?" It's because it's quality of life, and it really irked me from the moment I first played this game. All right. So yeah, now let's go into, I guess, what's really gonna, bring in the people here and their opinions and everything. The actual changes to the classes, and we're starting out with the big one, with the big PK that's looming over all of For Honor right now, and be it competitive scene, be it casual or not, the Peacekeeper. First thing on the agenda for the Peacekeeper was obviously the most discussed attack and probably most disgusting attack for many people, the zone attack of the Peacekeeper. Fastest attack in the game. Console players have not even seen it because it's so fast and doesn't properly render. Now, the changes which they've done to the zone attack. The zone attack first strike is now set up as a light attack to trigger an interrupt reaction on block. So what does that mean for us?
That is actually massive because before a Peacekeeper could do a zone attack, even if you blocked it, you couldn't get anything out of it. The PK could just obviously cancel the first hit and either dodge away or go for a light attack because the PK was plus in that situation. So the PK actually had the initiative after the zone attack. But now, after the change, the PK actually gets staggered like you would do a normal light hit, and you can do something when you manage to block the zone attack.
Now that is a really, really big change.
Now,
Of
keep
course,
in
it's
mind, it does say that it's a light attack, which usually cannot be feinted, but in this instance, you can still feint the zone attack.
yeah, because I guess it counts as a zone attack, but it has the property of a light attack when it comes to being blocked.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now that's a really big change, obviously, and I think quite a few peacekeepers, especially on the competitive level, are going to have to be a lot more careful with just throwing out their zone attacks. Especially since, like you said, they can't really follow up like that. Now, do you think that actually makes the Peacekeeper, like if you manage to block a zone attack, do you think that makes the Peacekeeper punishable?
It's not really like a punishable per se. Like you don't get a free light, you don't get a free guard break, but it gives the initiative back to the defending player. And
Okay.
the Peacekeeper can't really utilize the tactic of using a zone attack and backdashing because that was safe against most of the roster. But now the PK actually has to stay there with low stamina after the zone attack and see what you're gonna do.
All right. That's pretty nice. All right, now canceling a blocked zone attack while in Revenge will now force an exit of 600 milliseconds, preventing you from attacking again. Now, this is obviously, some people might be saying, well, Revenge mode doesn't matter for competitive. Well, that's not true because we have Revenge in competitive, especially in 2 versus 2, right? And one thing we like to see there in 2 versus 2 is the Peacekeeper builds up Revenge and then just unleashes a torrent of zone attacks on, like with target switching on both of their opponents. Now, in this case, so if you block one of those zone attack in Revenge, it now means that she actually can't do another zone attack for 600 milliseconds. Is that right?
Yeah. I tested this before we did this, and basically, you don't have an animation, but you can step backwards a little bit for half a second, and you can still trade an attack with another zone attack. So if she does try to go for the zone attack spam still while she's in revenge mode, she can do that, but you have the option you have like half a second to do something of your own or to just get out there. Before, if there was a Peacekeeper in front of you with revenge, you were like, I cannot dodge, I cannot do anything, I'm just going to try to block until
Right.
the zone attack, until the revenge is gone. Now you have the option, as soon as you block revenge zone attack, you have the option to leave. She gets further away from you, and there's less pressure on yourself.
Oh, that's really good. So again, definitely something that the zone attack Peacekeeper needed when it comes to a nerf, because those revenge zone attacks were just insane sometimes. Now there is a bug fix in there as well. A zone attack UI indicator will now correctly start at the beginning of the animation instead of 100 milliseconds later. Now, as far as I'm aware, the zone attack of the Peacekeeper is a 400 millisecond attack. And yeah, so it's the fastest attack in the game. And what was actually happening was that the actual indicator for the attack only started 100 milliseconds after the attack had already begun, which means that a 400 millisecond attack visually just became for you, when it comes to the indicator, a 300 millisecond attack. And they fixed that now. So the indicator is actually also 400 milliseconds. So again, helps react a little bit better. Still an insanely fast attack that I guess the two of you can agree you probably still have to more predict than react to in many cases.
Yeah, I think that this together with it being treated as a light attack is actually massive. I think fixing the animation is maybe even the biggest change out of all of them, because before you had you have your network lag and whatever on top of all the animation lag, but now you actually have 400 milliseconds to react to it, which is more than doable.
So that's a really, really big thing. So you can block
yeah.
it. If you block it, you actually, as you said, like the defender actually now has the initiative. And on revenge, of course, the same thing is true for the revenge one. It's also got the indicator fixed, and you get like an even bigger opportunity to get away from that one. So very, very good fixes in your opinion then on the zone attack.
Oh, definitely. This is gonna peg down the PK a little bit, but I think it's a pretty good change, and it's not gonna make Peacekeeper useless or anything like that. It's just a nice little change.
Nice. Extheleon, do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, yeah. This won't really change much. However, I've even tested this with my brother who has average reaction times, and he was able to even consistently parry the zone attack if he knew it was coming. Before, I knew it would be coming, and I still wouldn't be able to even block it, never mind parry. The fact that he could do that now, it also means that you can get a top heavy, which I just love. So
Top heavy.
parrying the zone attack is now actually pretty good.
Nice. So that's a really, really good thing there. And the Peacekeeper is brought a bit more in line with the rest of the roster than, especially also in competitive, where, like the people with the reaction times to consistently maybe parry it or, at least block it are playing. All right. Now, we do actually see something which is interesting. We see some slight nerfs, but also actually buff to the Peacekeeper as well. The sidestep strike recovery on interrupt block was increased to 800 ms. Now, the sidestep strike is the one where she dodges to the left or the right, and she uses her heavy and kind of like stabs you with her bigger sword. If you block that beforehand, she was interrupted for 700 milliseconds. It is now 800. Meaning that her getting that blocked is now a little bit unsafer for her. I take it that's not really a huge thing, though, because I don't really see those attacks being used in competitive a lot.
If this sidestep strike takes into account the lunging attack damage as well, and decreases the damage of that as well, and the interrupt block on that as well, then that is quite huge for competitive play, especially Brawl, because that lunge attack is used almost like 70% of the time, even in competitive mode, because it's such a good gap closer, and the damage on it is insane.
I do believe it is only the actual sidestep strike, though.
If it's that, then yeah, nobody uses it that much.
Yeah, the lunge is actually, as far as I'm aware, has a different name and has not been changed. It was only about the left or right dodge strike. So yeah, that was also decreased in damage, by the way. It used to do 20 damage, now does 15. So a nerf to that. Apparently, according to the developers, quite a lot of damage from the Peacekeeper actually came off of that, but that was probably in non-competitive settings because we really don't see it in any tournaments. Now, here's an actual buff to the Peacekeeper. The riposting stab damage was increased to 30 from 25. The bleed effect remains unchanged. Now, the riposting stab is the one where she actually deflects you. She deflects your attack with a dodge and then does the riposting stab, which now does 30 damage. Deflects are not really used much in the game in general, and especially not in competitive, because if you can get a deflect, usually you will just go for a parry instead, right? So do you guys see this in any way changing the Peacekeeper in a tournament?
No, I don't. What about you, Pete?
I think assassins should try to deflect more. Like that's the reason why they have the mechanic. But right now parrying is easier, and you get a better payoff from that. So I'm all up for buffing deflects for all the assassin characters, actually.
Just to make it, more on par with the parry or actually outweigh the parry, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, those are probably changes that we might see in the future someday when they might change something about parrying in general. But for now, it doesn't change anything about the Peacekeeper on a high level, but it does change just in casual matches where those deflects or sidesteps are actually used more. All right, so those were the Peacekeeper changes. Let's go for the Warlord. Now, that's something where obviously Pete is going to give us a lot of his opinions on. First thing, headbutt. Pete. Pete, the headbutt. Okay, so stamina cost was increased to 15 from 12. Uh, not a huge increase, I guess, but big enough to make a difference.
Yeah, it's like an individual headbutt. It's you're not gonna see a difference. But for example, when you get the opponent out of stamina, and using headbutt is basically safe. So when you add like 4 headbutts, it's actually quite a nerf.
Yeah, I bet. So you actually lose an entire headbutt, I think, don't
Yeah,
you?
yeah. After 4 headbutts, you basically can you even do 4 headbutts? It's like you can't do that many anymore. So, but I think that change is pretty good though.
Yeah, nice. So the dodge window was increased by 200 milliseconds. Now, a lot of people are wondering, wait, the dodge window on the headbutt? I don't understand what that is. What they're talking about is the following. The headbutt obviously has an animation and it has a point at which it makes contact with the enemy and, actually counts as a hit. Now, the enemy has, after the headbutt animation starts, has a certain window in which he can actually dodge out of the way before the hit connects. And they increased that window by 200 milliseconds, basically meaning it is now easier to dodge the headbutt because it will not actually connect with you as fast as it did before. Now, that's obviously a huge nerf, isn't it, Pete?
Oh yeah, it's I have to test around it a bit more, but I hope it's not too easy to dodge because then it's gonna be an unusable ability. But I think the main purpose why they did this was like, of course, they wanted to make it easier to dodge as well because it's really annoying to dodge from really close range. But they wanted to address like the phantom hits when you dodge the headbutt, but it still hits you. Like that is really annoying, especially when you're dodging backwards. The headbutt still reaches you, and the Warlord does a teleporting stab onto your guts.
Yeah, this should not really happen anymore now with this dodge window increase.
Yeah, hopefully.
Still, very big nerf to it. Might make the headbutt a lot more situational than the Swiss Army knife that it is right now, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like at the moment, it's a perfect tool to punish someone who's completely out of stamina. So if the Warlord's forced to use it only when somebody's out of stamina, is the good thing or not? We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. The meta changes, and we'll have to see if it's good or bad. All right, the miss recovery was reduced to 700 milliseconds from 800. As far as I'm aware, the miss recovery is if you miss your headbutt, it is the time until you're able to act again. So in this case, it's actually a buff.
Oh yeah, and I think the next line also when they increase the delay until you can attack after a headbutt miss by 200 milliseconds. So before you could miss a headbutt and the opponent dodged it and he went for a guard break, but you could do a light attack before that guard break landed on the Warlord, making it basically safe against anyone who tried to do a dodging and a guard break. But after this change, I believe you can't mash out the light anymore. So you can reliably punish the headbutt with a guard break now.
Meaning that if your opponent, if he has a proper timing on his light attack, it won't work.
Yeah.
All right. Full block stance actually sees some changes again. There was a bug fix where the stamina cost could be doubled in some cases. They fixed it. That's just a bug fix. I guess the cases were, as far as I'm aware, very sporadic. So that doesn't really change much. It can no longer be chained into a headbutt unless an attack has been blocked. Now, as far as I'm aware, that's actually kind of a big change to how you can use the headbutt out of full block stance, but it doesn't actually affect much because you didn't throw out headbutts out of the full block stance anyway, right?
Yeah, it nerfs us like a few scenarios. For example, when you went into all block preemptively and the opponent did, let's say you're fighting a warden. The warden is going for a shoulder bash. You want to headbutt him out of the shoulder bash, but you're in all block, then you can't do it anymore. So that's actually a nerf to a scenario like that. But usually what I did and most other warlords is you headbutt when after somebody's hits you already. So it's only, you don't really have the oh crap button anymore. I did a mistake, let me correct that. But now you actually have to plan ahead and use it properly.
Right. So, but still, it like after you block, you can still throw it out, which is something that you and other warlords did anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, now we're going into a class which I'm really happy about, that it saw so many changes, but which none of you actually play, because let's be honest, no one plays this class in competitive. So I'm actually kind of interested if this is probably not the step into competitive, but it could be a step towards competitive for the class. The Kensei. Now, first of all, I'll put this together real quick. The Helm Splitter, which is the forward dodge top light attack, and the Swift Strike, which is the side dodge, I think, light attack as well. Was it the heavy attack? Heavy attack. Those now actually chain directly into the chain finisher, which is the top unblockable attack. Meaning that instead of having to do 2 attacks and then the chain finisher, you can actually do one of these attacks now and go directly into the finisher, and thereby going into your mix-up of feints and mind games and so on. Now that's pretty big for the Kensei, isn't it?
I think so. I think it is. For example, say you're playing a warden against a warden, as Ken say, and the warden decides to go for the shoulder bash. You take him out with a light attack, so you cancel his shoulder bash, and from there you can pretty much get him into a 50-50 of the unblockable.
Yeah. And even if you throw the unblockable, you can feint it and go into like a side heavy, or feint that and go into something else.
Yeah, I think he's going to give him more options. It'll be interesting to see what, good Kensei players can do with it, though.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to seeing, say, Ender Vex, for example, doing what he can do that. Now, at the same time, they also made the side light attack opener. Opener, in this case, always means it is a light attack out of the neutral stance. They decreased the startup from 700 milliseconds to 600 milliseconds. So the Kensei always had very, very slow light attacks, especially from the side. Now they're 100 ms faster. I guess that's just a nice general buff, bringing it more in line with other classes.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's Extheleon might be the top heavy machine. Every Kensei was a top light machine. It was basically the only viable move they had to open somebody up. So hopefully the side lights will be good now as well.
Yeah. Now, at the same time, they actually also fixed something for the light finishers in and out of guard in this case being unlocked, where the top light finisher recovery and the side light finisher recovery on an interrupt block, meaning they were blocked by the opponent, have been reduced to 800 ms now. They were beforehand 900 and 1100 ms for top and side light respectively, meaning that the light attacks of the Orochi are now actually safe on block, meaning they do not guarantee a free guard break anymore for your opponent. Now that's a huge one, because they couldn't use these attacks at all. So Extheleon, what do you think? Is this as big as I think it is?
Wait, you got me confused. You said Orochi then. Are we?
I say Orochi? I'm so sorry. That's like the only. Yeah, sorry. No, I mean the Kensei, obviously. Yeah.
Right. So what was it that you said? Is the top light finisher?
Yeah, the top light and the side light finisher, both in and out of lock, are now actually safe on block.
Yeah, that's definitely good.
Yeah, beforehand you would get a free guard break after blocking one of those.
Especially the side light finishers. They've reduced it by almost 200. No, they have. They've reduced by 200 ms. That's huge.
300, by 300 even, from 1,100
oh my God, 300,
down to 800.
Sorry, I can't math.
Yeah, that is a huge one. That is like like a fourth faster, more than a fourth. So that's a huge one, and them being now actually safer like that, the Kensei is now a lot stronger. So my question to both of you, I mean, these are like a few changes, but I think actually pretty big changes when it comes to. Do you think the Kensei could take a step into competitive now? With the right player, of course.
I already bumped Kensei up from F tier on my tier list to B tier,
Oh,
but
wow.
but I want to see where he can go with that, because the Kensei has quite a few like the only scary situation for the Kensei is the top unblockable and what he's going to do after that. Now he can reliably go into that top unblockable and do the mix up on the opponent. So I think Kensei is going to be one of the more aggressive characters now.
So definitely a character for people who are good at the mix-up and so on.
Yeah.
Extheleon, do you agree with that? Like, I mean, that's a huge bump up on Pete's personal list from F tier all the way to B.
I mean, on the paper, it looks really good. Like these changes, like they're really welcoming. But how we're going to see it in competitive play is another thing. Like so many times where you see something good on paper and it doesn't
Mm.
really translate that well. It looks like it does. Like so, I'm hoping it does. I'm
Well, I
hoping
mean,
that's what the case.
do you feel that there will be players who maybe not in tournaments immediately, but who will be trying to train with the Kensei and try to take the risk of not going for one of the top four, but instead trying to bring something new in there?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, these changes are significant enough that it actually changes the playstyle and the options that's available to him. That it gives people the incentive to actually try him out, give him a shot. I
Nice.
think he can be good.
Nice. I am looking forward to that. The Kensei has always been one of my favorite characters to watch. I haven't actually played him a lot, but I really hope we're going to see some surprises. Maybe not immediately, but maybe in the upcoming 1 or 2 weeks. All right, now that was the Kensei. Now we're going for, that assassin that no one ever talks about because so few people play him, the Berserker. The Berserker actually got some buffs, which he desperately needed. Now, we of course have to wonder if the Berserker is actually fully buffed because, as we said earlier, they actually removed one of his really big heavy damage combos. Now, his super armor, which he has, which is called Dauntless in the game, which actually used to apply after getting 4 hits or blocks on your attacks and it makes them uninterruptible, is now applied on all second and later attacks in a chain. So it comes out earlier, a lot earlier. I mean, I guess that's definitely a positive change. The Berserker no longer requires the preceding attack to hit or be blocked to count towards applying super armor. Now, that is actually really big because, as it says, it used to be that you have to either hit your attack or the attack has to be blocked for it to actually count towards activating it. Now, you can actually throw out 2 attacks into the air and you'll have your Dauntless.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of whiffing berserkers now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Like with
yeah, I think like this is gonna help, especially against some characters who have fast pokes, like the Peacekeeper. So the Berserker can whiff the attack in the air and go for a second hit. For example, if you whiff a light and go for a heavy, the Peacekeeper can't press any button because the Berserker is gonna win that trade every single time with the heavy. And from there, the Berserker can either feint the heavy or just go through with it. It gives him a lot more options, and it's gonna make him a lot more aggressive character as well.
especially in 1 versus 1
Yeah,
situations.
definitely.
Yeah. So do you think that because of that, he's actually moving towards kind of like almost the same role as the Shugoki with his hyper armor? I mean, the Berserker obviously doesn't have it at all times, but he can get it up incredibly quick now on him. And do you think he's almost going to be as tradey as the Shugoki can be?
I really hope that the Berserker is gonna rise up in the tier lists, but time will tell, because you kind of have to set it up, and the opponent can just kind of wait and block and see what he's gonna do. But maybe they all the Berserker players find something cool with that.
Mm. Extheleon, do you think that the Berserker is going to be much more about trading hits now?
Oh yeah, definitely. He's going to be all about whiffing his first attack, hoping to get like a response out of them, whether it's just out of range with his light attacks for them to try to go for a parry, and then you go into another attack, hoping that you'll trade or something like that. However, it doesn't really give you any options to people uh, turtling. Unlike
Mm.
the Kensei, where we've seen the buffs above, where it's given us more option to open someone that's turtling with a 50-50 going into it right away after a light attack. This one, people can still block you basically.
Yeah. All right, so we got to see what Berserker players can make with that. At the same time, they did remove the stamina cost reduction when the super armor kicks in, which was beforehand. If your super armor started up, you didn't just have Dauntless going on, but all your attacks actually cost less damage. That is now less damage. They cost less stamina. That was now removed, so they will always cost the same amount of stamina. I guess that's a fair trade for being able to, basically turn on super armor almost on a dime. All
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
now the deflect transition into guard break after 500 milliseconds instead of 700. What this means is when the Berserker deflects, the Berserker gets an automatic guard break on his enemy. But beforehand, after the deflect into the guard break took 700 milliseconds. It now only takes 500 milliseconds because beforehand, say the Peacekeeper or the Valkyrie could actually interrupt the guard break by throwing out a second light in their after their deflected one. So that's a big one for Berserkers fighting them because they couldn't get out their deflect, which is one of their actually main abilities.
Yeah, and
So let's hope that
yeah,
Berserker players can make use of that.
I would say this is more of a bug fix than actually a buff, because that's how it's supposed to work. When you deflect one attack,
Yeah,
you should get a reward from that.
yeah, it's a bug fix basically, like written down as a buff. Um, at the same time, when you're out of guard mode or unlocked, your right light attack recovery on a block, the interrupt for that has been reduced to 700 milliseconds. Apparently, what used to happen is that if you threw a right light attack in both normal and out of guard, you could actually get a free guard break on the Berserker if you blocked it. So that was fixed now. That doesn't happen anymore. You can't get any free guard breaks on the Berserker anymore on block. This is a reoccurring thing which we're seeing through these patch notes. All right, let's move into someone that the two of you have definitely faced a lot in tournaments, which is the Conqueror. Conqueror is one of those weird classes where when you look at him, you're kind of thinking this guy has like nothing going on for him. But in fact, he's actually one of the top classes, isn't he?
Hmm.
Right. So here come the nerfs to the Conqueror, and let's see if he still stays one of the top classes. Full block stance, hit and bump recoveries can no longer chain directly into full block stance. Now, what this means is beforehand, when the Conqueror got hit by an attack, or if he got bumped in this case is, say, the shoulder charge from the Warden or the headbutt from the Warlord, the Conqueror could actually go immediately into his full block stance and thereby stop any kind of follow-up. So a Warden who shoulder charged him could, for example, not go into his double side light attacks, or a Warlord could not actually do his follow-up light stab. This was now done. It doesn't work anymore. Well, that's a huge nerf for the Conqueror, isn't
That's
it? Because
huge.
that's guaranteed damage that he's getting now if he gets hit with this. Like,
Yeah, that's one of the,
Extheleon, what does that mean for the
Conqueror's
Conqueror?
dead.
that's one of the reasons why he was so strong against conquerors and even warlords. It's they just could not you just could not punish a conqueror despite getting him with a headbutt or a shoulder bash. And there were good conquerors who were able to time the full stance block with a parry timing in which it almost cost no stamina to do that.
Yeah.
So the only way for warlords and wardens in competitive play to really punish your conqueror was to actually somehow get them out of stamina, which was not easy to do against a good conqueror.
Yeah. But now, of course, you have those guaranteed follow-ups, so that is
yeah.
a completely changed matchup now, isn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you as a
Huge.
Warden player, I guess you're pretty much kind of like making a
Really
victory fist at
confident.
this point.
Pretty much really confident against conqueror players now.
Yeah. Pete, do you agree with X?
Oh yeah, it's like all of it. We're gonna go into more of the changes, but this change alone bumps Conqueror down really low, because it was the main reason why Conquerors were so strong, because it was almost impossible to get damage in. Because
Yeah.
even if you hit the Conqueror, you're the one who got punished.
Which is, kind of awkward when you think about it. So you might think like, hey, this is a realistic change. I understand why they did that, but if it bumps down the Conqueror so much because of that, do you guys think this was a step in the right direction? Was this something that was inevitable?
Well, to be honest, this is more of a bug fix. To be honest, no, they shouldn't have been able to do this in the first place. But obviously, people use this and they just became gods in competitive mode.
Hmm.
This is more of a bug fix. To be honest, that's how I see it anyway.
Okay. So not
Because
actually that the Conqueror was supposed to be this defensive.
no, I really don't think that he was supposed to be able to block everything, even if you hit him.
Hmm.
It made no sense.
All right. Okay, then another thing which they did is a little bug fix on Shield Bash. The Conqueror cannot counter Guard Break from Shield Bash hit and miss recoveries. Now, I say a little bug fix. This is actually another huge thing, isn't it? Because beforehand, when the Conqueror threw out a Shield Bash and you dodged it, or you even like hit him out of it, if you Guard broke him, he could actually take out of it, right? And he can't do that anymore, which means if you dodged the Shield Bash, you got the Conqueror in a guard break.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, that's huge.
yeah.
So what does that mean for the shield bash? Is this basically now is this a ruined skill at this point? Are they not going to use it anymore?
it, this is the thing that absolutely is gonna destroy Conquerors. Conqueror is dead, absolutely dead, because the shield bash is pretty easy to dodge. You can dodge it on reaction. You don't. It's not a surprising move. You can dodge it, but now you get a free guard break. It's way too much.
So this is like Pete 2017 Conqueror is dead.
Conqueror is dead.
Right. Okay, so a small actual bug fix, not even like a balance change, listed as a bug fix, basically just killed this class competitively.
Hmm.
So do you guys agree with this?
No,
X?
I don't. I think this is a bit too much. All they needed to fix was a full stance thing, where that you would be able to punish the Conqueror for doing a shoulder bash or a headbutt. But now throwing shield bashes out means that the Conqueror has literally no initiative ability anymore against someone that knows how to dodge the shield bash and go for a guard break. Each shield bash means the death. So now they're going to have to play much more defensive and use the shield bash more of a reactive tool rather than an offensive tool.
Hmm. That makes sense. I mean, and at the same time, while being defensive earlier with the full block change, their defense was also kind of nerfed. So it's actually they were nerfed offensively and defensively at the
Yeah,
same time.
yeah, that's why he's pretty much gone down the tier list.
Right. The Shield Bash repost, we have the startup is no longer has block on top guard. It used to have that. So with that, if you did the Shield Bash repost, someone threw out a top attack, you would actually block that. The repost miss recovery no longer has the ability to block, meaning that if someone dodged that and threw an attack at you, you would actually block it. That's not possible anymore. The Conqueror cannot counter guard break from Shield Bash repost hit and miss recoveries. This is the same thing as the normal Shield Bash. So again, also to the Shield Bash repost, huge nerfs. So as basically as gutted as the normal Shield Bash, if not more even. The Shield Bash mix-up has the exact same changes done to it. Startup no longer has block on top guard. Miss recovery no longer has the ability to block. Cannot counter guard break. Everything that it has to do with the Shield Bash has basically been stripped of block and is now easily counterable by a dodge into a guard break. A probably fatal guard break most of the times. So that is crazy. At the same time, we do see a buff actually the heavy attack openers, so a heavy attack out of a neutral stance, the damage has actually been increased from 23 to 25. This is quite big when you think about it because beforehand, if a Conqueror hit you and you were on your last bar of health and a Conqueror hit you with a heavy, they couldn't actually kill you. You would survive with 2 health because 1 bar of health is 25 health all in all. They now changed that. If you're on 1 bar and the Conqueror gets a heavy attack in, he kills you.
Yeah, a lot of people already bypassed this issue by doing an unlock heavy, which did more damage, but they fixed it so that that doesn't do more damage. The out of lock guard heavy and the in guard lock heavy all do the same damage now. It's
Yeah.
25, which means if the person's at critical health with that 1 bar of health and a bit, he's gonna die from your heavy.
Yeah, which is obviously a good thing because if you had to use an out of lock like technique to finish someone on their last bar, there was obviously something wrong. At the same time, people can of course also argue that it is a nerf to the heavy attacks because, as you said, the out of lock ones actually did do more damage and they now do less.
Yeah, but the good thing about this is that now that you can kill someone while you're still in lock, you're able to execute them, which is more
Yes.
useful. The minion game,
Yes.
you're able to get health gain.
Yeah, very much true. And at the same time, another thing which again we see through many of these patch notes for the classes is light attacks in and out of guard, recovery on interrupt block on the right light attack has been reduced to 700 milliseconds, meaning that if it gets blocked, you no longer get free guard broken by your enemy. All right, so conclusion, Conqueror is dead. Headbutt, says
Completely
now here
dead.
comes someone where after we talked about the Kensei and how he might, actually move up in the world competitively, now here comes a class that a lot of people were very excited for, but then when they actually got to play it, were like, I can't make this work. This just isn't strong enough. The Lawbringer. Never really see a Lawbringer in competitive, sometimes in 2 versus 2. But yeah, the Lawbringer has gotten a huge amount of buffs. So let's jump right into that. The long arm now guarantees a side heavy attack, not a top heavy. That's a big one, I guess. But the long arm is also incredibly easy to dodge in a 1 versus 1 situation.
Yeah, I think most of the Lawbringer buffs, this included, they're more of a 4v4 buff.
Yeah, or
Like
maybe a 2 versus 2.
yeah, maybe, but like if you get hit by a long arm, you're a snail.
Or you were literally called out in like a situation where, yeah, okay, like that was random basically. There
Yeah.
was random positioning and you got caught by it. You couldn't dodge away. Right. So then again, I mean, it is nice because beforehand you only used to get a guaranteed light out of it, and I mean, it is a slow wind up, long animation attack, and just literally just getting a guaranteed light off of it, it just wasn't worth it. Now that you get a side heavy, definitely worth it, I'd say.
It's competitively, this is still a pretty useless skill to use because
Oh yeah,
heavily punishable with a guard break, and it's just way too fucking slow.
Yeah.
At the same time, it doesn't have super armor, unlike the shove. If it
does
had
not.
if it had super armor, it might work pretty well against a peacekeeper, where you would, keep your distance and you'd wait for them to dodge into your face. You'd go straight into the long arm, and whatever they did, whether it's a zone attack, light attack, you were gonna get the top heavy
Yeah,
into the long arm.
but sadly it is interruptible,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
like the shove. All right. Now what we got here is big buffs to the parry of the Lawbringer, actually, and parries obviously being a huge part of the game. The parry now guarantees an impaling riposte, and the parry now guarantees a make way. The impaling riposte is the impaling charge as a riposte after a parry. So this is now guaranteed. If you parry someone, and this is not just light parries, this is light and heavy parries, you can now impale them and basically run straight forward with them, and you could run them off a ledge or into a wall, just like the Raider, for example, can. But that's actually pretty big, isn't it? I mean, the impaling charge into a wall, as far as I'm aware, wall stun guarantees a top heavy.
Yeah, I think this is actually the biggest buff to the Lawbringer. Obviously, you get the ledge kills and stuff, but you get massive damage out of a parry now.
Yeah, even out of a heavy parry.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it guarantees a make way. The make way is a special zone attack which the Lawbringer has, which is animated like a normal zone attack, but it comes out directly after parry, and this actually it does more damage as far as I'm aware than the normal zone attack, but it also has super armor. So not as good in 1 versus 1, obviously, because you just got a parry, but definitely good in group situations.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So and
Also, the
beforehand
make
it didn't even work. So now it actually works apparently.
that's true, yeah. And also the make way they've increased the damage to 25, which means you can actually
Yep.
kill someone from a critical health.
Yep. That's an entire bar of health that you take off while basically swinging in almost 360 degrees around you with super armor enabled.
It's
So in
pretty
a group situation, it's definitely can be very strong. Maybe even, especially when you, for example, when you have revenge and you parry someone, could do a lot. All right, the light riposte now applies stun on hit. The light riposte means that you parry someone, and then you do a follow-up light. Uh, Now this light now actually applies stun. That's pretty good. Before it was literally just a light attack, and now it actually applies a stun. The Lawbringer, as far as I'm aware, beforehand only had stun if you hit a top heavy on the enemy.
Oh yeah,
A stun's useful in competitive.
it can create some somewhat confusing situations, but it's nice. But it's not really a massive buff.
Hmm. It's a nice addition, basically. It
Yeah.
gives you another option if you wanted to.
It depends on how fast you can go into a guard break after it. If you can go into the guard break when the screen is still white from the stun, that's going to be pretty big, because then you can condition your enemy to, well, I'm going to stun you after that. So you're going to have to preemptively guard break button, even when you can't see anything. And from there, you can go into a free heavy, so on. It all depends on how useful this is.
All right. So we got the hit and regular block recovery branchings into chain after a light repose increased to 200 milliseconds from 100. Now, as far as I'm aware, what that means is that if you throw the light riposte and you get the hit, it actually now takes you 200 milliseconds to follow it up. Is that about right? I'm not actually
Sure.
100% sure what they're trying to say with this.
Hit and regular block recovery.
Recovery branches, yeah. Well, we're no lawbringers, so I guess we'll have someone teach us this in the comments. So if you're a lawbringer and you know what this means, or if you're from Ubisoft and you know what this means, write it in the comments. We'll thank you for it. All right, the make way, as we said, make way is a parry zone attack, has super armor now, does 25 damage. Nice little thing. It also now works. Now here come a lot of things about his chains, where the Swift Justice, which is the heavy, light, heavy, the light attack startup was decreased to 500 milliseconds from 700. Now that is a huge buff to light attack speed, isn't it? I mean, that's, for example, that's much faster than say the Kensei slide. The Kensei slides being 600 ms, this light being 500. And at the same time, the top and the side light attack damage was also both increased to 15, where beforehand it was 10 for top and 8 for side. Now, 8, like, I mean, that is almost a 2 times increase in damage. Now, that's pretty huge for the Lawbringer, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
this is going to be a lot harder to stop the Lawbringer from going to the last heavy hit. So the light attack being 500 it's going to be pretty hard to parry that. So it's going to help the Lawbringer get to the last hit of the chain.
Especially since this, of course, the light attack being the second hit in the chain, it means that it actually comes off of a shove, because the shove counts as the first hit in your chain. So you can now shove someone and then immediately go into a 500 ms light attack, which does 15 damage.
Oh yeah.
So that's quite a bit. The book chapter verse chain, which is light, heavy, light. The startup for the top heavy or for was decreased by 100 ms to 1000. The side heavy was decreased by 100 ms to 900. So yeah, the heavy in the middle, the second hit, is now a little bit faster. Again, this is also when you come out of a shove. At the same time, the damage for those heavies was massively increased. Sorry, the top heavy attack is now 35 up from 20, and the side heavy is now 30 up from 20. So that is really, really big. And then for the last, the finisher in the chain, which is a light, both top and side, again, because this is what happened to all of the lights, are now 15 damage. Now that's a huge increase in damage, isn't it?
I
Yeah.
love this.
Oh yeah, this is very good.
Top heavies. You know how I feel about top heavies, Klyka.
Yeah, top heavy, 35 damage. Not quite at the
15.
40 of a Warden, but
Yeah, but still a 15 damage increase. That's huge.
Yeah, that is huge. It's almost, again, almost twice the damage. So if you can get that top heavy, and it stuns. Don't forget that. If he lands that top heavy, he does 35 damage plus a stun, because all of the top heavies of a Lawbringer are actually stunned.
That's true.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. And then we have the Judge, Jury, Executioner, which is the light, heavy, heavy chain. The first top heavy startup again is 100 milliseconds faster now. Same for the first side heavy attack. This is only for the first, not for the second. Both of them 100 milliseconds faster. But the heavy finisher unblockable, which is the Executioner, is now actually 45 damage up from 30. So again, we're seeing a 15 damage increase. Now, if he hits you with that thing, he almost takes off 2 bars of your health. That's crazy. That is a huge amount of damage.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like what they've done, tried to do with all of these changes, make the chains be more rewarding, because the Lawbringer has these long ass chains, and you get a massive payout if you actually manage to land them.
Yeah, like you absolutely get a huge payout. I mean, almost 2 bars. That is huge. If you land that on someone, especially in, say, a group match or whatever, you can just destroy people. And then at the very end, we actually get a bug fix to the shove, which is remove the super armor from the hit and miss recoveries, which basically means if you hit a shove or if you missed a shove, you would have super armor during the recovery of this still. They didn't like that. They removed it. It's now only during the actual build up until you either hit or miss of the shove. Now, it's a bug fix, small nerf, I guess. But yeah, I mean, what do you think about that? Does that actually mean that the shove is now even worse when it gets dodged?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
what's this going to change is that if somebody waits too long and does a light attack before, because of the interruptible stance on it, you would hit the Lawbringer and you'd still get shoved.
Mm.
Now you're going to, if you hit the Lawbringer and he does it just before you get hit, it's going to take you out of it.
And I think this is somewhat of a nerf, especially when you're fighting against a running Shugoki. The Lawbringer could get super armor by doing the shove, and hence just bounce off from the Shugoki, and the Shugoki couldn't get a knockdown with the charge. But now the Shugoki is just free to run around.
Oh, I see. So that's actually, for that matchup, is a very, very big nerf, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
All right. Finishing touches on the Lawbringer. Lots of changes, huge damage increases, some faster attacks, and so on. Apparently, you now get guaranteed 15 damage lights off of shoves. I mean, that's pretty big. What do you guys think? Is he on his way to becoming a viable competitive character?
These changes will
Except,
definitely help, but
yeah.
we're gonna need some time. We're gonna need some time to see. Are they? Does he have any openers still? There's a lot of damage, that damage buffs and like the buffs to his parries and stuff like that. But he already had those.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Extheleon, what do you think? Is he a bit more viable now? I mean, the shove, which is his initiator, basically, or kind of his initiator, is very easy to dodge, has been actually nerfed through this bug fix. He's got all this damage now. Do you think he's actually possible to deliver it?
Possibly, but I don't think he's going to be in the top 4.
Mm.
I don't think he will. I mean, if they could guarantee a light attack from a shove, and
That's what they're doing, though. The light attack is guaranteed after a shove.
it is now.
It's what I read.
That's what I'm seeing as well. I
Yeah.
don't know. I can't confirm if it is. If it is, then I think that's going to be pretty good. It's going to be pretty big.
Mm.
So we'll see how it goes. Because the light attacks now do actual damage. They don't just tickle the opponent.
Yeah, 2 lights attacks, and you have more than a bar taken off.
Yeah, it's pretty good damage right there.
Yeah. So maybe if he's not viable yet in 1 versus 1, do you see him having a proper role in, say, 2 versus 2?
I think so. Yeah.
Pete, what do you think? Lawbringer, 2 versus 2?
2 versus 2 Lawbringer. I mean, the massive damage is there. so you could do like a some kind of a guard break setup into a long arm, and you both would get heavies on the character. So it would kind of work like the Shugoki charge works like now in 2v2. So it could be interesting.
Yeah, maybe we'll see some people trying to adapt that with the changes. Lawbringer definitely moved up.
Yeah.
All right, quick look at the Nobushi, the top light finisher and side light finishers recovery. Again, they reduced the interrupt block recoveries by 100 ms on the top light from 900 to 800, and by 200 ms on the side lights from 1000 to 800. They did the same on the right light finisher recovery. No, that was actually increased apparently from 700 to 800, meaning that all of her lights being blocked now have 800 milliseconds of recovery, so no more free guard breaks on the Nobushi after top light finisher or side light finisher.
Yeah.
It's good. It's a fix. They basically did that for everybody. Apart from that, Nobushi doesn't really get anything. Still not the most competitive character, but we have seen a couple people actually competing with her in tournaments. So interesting to see if we'll see more of that when we see actual maybe buffs or changes for her. Now, the Shugoki. Obviously something we could talk about a lot, and is actually going to be a topic in another State of Honor, because the Shugoki right now is a competitive powerhouse, which Pete Mu can attest to. Again, the only changes that he's gotten in this patch is recovery time on light attacks to prevent free guard breaks. This is the light attack in general. To 800 ms, he cannot be free guard broken anymore. Pete, what do you think about that? Light attacks now actually viable on the Shugoki?
Yeah, you can actually attack people now.
Yeah,
That's
but
nice. But yeah, it doesn't address the bigger issues with Shugoki,
yeah,
but we're going to get to that a bit later.
yeah, we're going to get to that in another actual episode, which will focus on that. And we already know that the developers are aware of the current Shugoki meta. All right, and at the very end, we'll fix it with the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie also just gets her recovery on the light finishers, and the right light finishers fixed to 800 ms. No more free guard breaks on that. I personally wasn't even aware of that, because I don't remember a Valkyrie actually throwing out a light finisher ever when I was watching. But yeah, you can't get a free guard break on that anymore. Again, it's a fix. It's a little bit of a buff, but it shouldn't have been happening in the first place. And with that, we're actually at the end of the patch notes.
All
So
right.
yeah, thank you guys for sitting through this with me. Thanks everybody for listening. Pete, let's start with you real quick. What do you think about this patch in general, and what you heard from the developers? Do you think we're moving in a good direction? Do you feel this is going to shake up the current competitive a little bit, or do you feel it was all for nothing?
First of all, I want to say thanks for hosting this, and there's a lot of good changes. I'd say the Conqueror was the only one that went a bit overboard, but everything else is like minor changes here and there, making like attacks, like light attacks, safe against free guard breaks. Those are like always welcome, and just generally a really nice patch.
So you think it's that the developers are definitely moving in a for you positive direction?
Yeah, if they could revert some of the Conqueror stuff, it will be a perfect patch.
Do you feel that this is going to have, I mean, obviously for the Conqueror, but do you feel that this is going to shake up the competitive scene, or do you feel you won't really have to approach upcoming tournaments in a different way?
We might see some pocket Kenseis. That's gonna be my case. I'm hoping we're gonna see some pocket Kenseis.
You just want to like be in the loading screen and suddenly be faced with a Kensei.
Oh yeah.
All right, okay. Yeah, Extheleon, again, also thank you so much for sitting through this and giving your
Thank you.
opinions.
Thank you
And
as well, Klyka.
no, it's no problem. I like doing that. So yeah, your thoughts, basically same question as Pete. What do you think about patch 1.05? I mean, as a Warden player, you didn't really get any changes to your class, but obviously to a lot of your opponents. Do you think this is a step in the correct direction? Do you agree with many things in this, or do you think this is a disaster of a patch?
This is really a good patch. It's addressing a lot of the issues that the community had, even in the competitive scene, and I'm actually quite excited to see the upcoming patches to see. One of the issues that I had with For Honor was that it seemed like it was going into more of a counter pick kind of game, you know, where
Mm.
it wasn't more of a pick one class, get really good at this class, you know, find your matchups, know how to fight against all the others. It wasn't like that because Warden matchups against like Warlords and Conquerors, it was almost completely and utterly hopeless. Now that we're seeing that they're actually listening and they're fixing stuff and they're actually looking at tournament play and how it is in the actual tournaments, it's it's really refreshing because I don't have to now learn Shigoki just because of the Conquerors. I have a tournament in 2 days. I was literally going to pick up the Shigoki just to counter the Conquerors because as a Warden player there was nothing I could do against them. And to
Mm.
see that they noticed that and they've changed that, that's pretty amazing. However, with the Conqueror, I do agree with Pete Mood. They have gone a bit overboard with them with having guard break and not guard break, having shield bash being so punishable. That's I don't really agree with that because that's the only thing that they had at competitive level. I do agree with the heavy. That's really good that they fixed the heavy damage. But if they could just make it so the shield bash is still safe, but the Conqueror as a whole isn't so safe with the full stance block, then
Mm.
I think it'll be still quite viable and pretty strong in competitive play.
Nice. So, as you already said, basically, like you were planning on picking up the Shigoki. So this is actually changing the competitive play up for you quite a bit, then, is
Yeah,
it?
I can actually focus on Warden, the character that I actually like to play with, and I have an actual chance against Warlords and Conquerors now with this patch.
Do you also feel that you'd love to see like a Kensei here or there popping
I
up?
would love that. That would be awesome.
That would be
Like,
great, wouldn't it? Yeah,
yeah.
like finally seeing a new class taking, like maybe not top spot, but at least taking part properly in tournaments and having a chance.
Oh, yeah.
That would be great. All right, so you also would say that this is a patch in the right direction.
Definitely, yeah.
All right, cool. All right, with this, I would say that yeah, we've gotten through everything. Again, thank you too for joining me here. It was great hosting you guys. It's always I'm always so happy to hear like your opinions on everything because you two are basically taking part in every single tournament and so have a huge experience when it comes to tournament play of For Honor, which when you think about it is actually still very very young because we're not even 2 months in, but we already had so many competitive. Matches and finals and crazy settings, and the meta is constantly evolving. So yeah, seeing such a big patch for the first time basically in the game, definitely an exciting time. And as we heard from the developers, they have more coming. They say they hear what's up. They say they're watching us. Let's hope that the upcoming changes and additions and so on that they have are as positive as many of these here. But let's of course also hope that they learn from the mistakes they might have made, and especially when it comes to the Conqueror in this case, maybe go back on some of the things or change some of the things which they've done to bring him from a competitive powerhouse to basically F tier, Pete Moose F tier,
It's actually
maybe
actually
bring
in
him
Z tier right now.
or Z tier. Actually, oh my God, it's like he just died completely. Let's hope that they can bring him back, not to the crazy powerhouse he was, but to an actual proper competitive character that especially his players will enjoy playing, and want to compete with. All right, and with that, I would say once more thank you, and thank all of you out there for sitting through us talking through patch notes and giving our opinions. My name is Klyka. With me were Pitmu
Thank
and
you.
Extheleon.
Hello, and thank you guys.
Yeah, and so with that, bye bye. And that was that.